Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about Relic Delta. And we're going to look at Relic Delta as it relates to the Galactic Legends, talk about which ones we feel are the, how do I want to phrase this? Which GLs get the most benefit to, alright, which ones are kind of getting the least amount of benefit. And we're going to look at this not just from the offensive perspective, from the defensive perspective, and kind of just an overall gauge of investment. Which ones do I feel are, going to be, hey, this is the best, this is maybe not so much, so on, so forth down the line. There's still a lot that we need to understand about this topic. There's still going to be more to come, but this is kind of my early thoughts off the cuff, and we're going to try to work our way through this as best we can. As always, let's give a quick shout out to our channel members for being a part of the Fat family. If you're ever interested, link below, along with a link to Discord. Go check it out, folks. Really appreciate everybody. Keep the faith. Believe in me through good, bad, thick, thin. Y'all are the best. Let's get in here. I'm excited to talk about this because it has been something that I've been asked a few times. So here we are, Galactic Legend Relic Delta. Alright, so I've got my kind of listing prepared here, and so I've got it just kind of started off here with the GLs that I feel are gaining the most benefit from Relic Delta are Rey, Lord Vader, Leia, and Ahsoka. Still winning is Jabba, Kylo, Hondo, and Sith Eternal. And then I have this almost losing category with Jedi Master Luke and Jedi Master Kenobi. I think with all Galactic Legends, Relic Delta will benefit them because when it comes to off-meta counters, oftentimes those counters are under-relicked comparative to the GL that they are fighting. That is not a hard, fast rule, but I'd argue most of the time when you are using an off-meta counter against a Galactic Legend, there is a Relic Delta advantage to the GL, which now will make that battle significantly harder depending on the delta between the team you're using and the GL you're facing. So we're going to kind of break down each of these GLs in a summary type video on, all right, how do they, how does each one benefit or not? So let's start with the first group of characters. So Rey and Leia. For me, it's their ultimate damage. With these two characters, the way their ultimates deal damage equally to all enemies, right? Or Leia, it's a set amount of an AoE. Rey, again, similar situation. The thing here that's really devastating for a character like Rey, and you think about the Relic Delta that she's going to have, which I'm going to pull up, by the way, we did get new thresholds. I haven't had a chance to talk about these yet, but I do at least will mention them in this particular video, right? Because I think it's kind of a big deal. So if we go here, the Relic Delta, the bottom ones you can't see are -4 and -5. Let's hide my face for a second. So there you go. Again, you get 100% at 4 relic difference and a 200% at relic 5. And then obviously up top, there's some reductions to the defense as well. So again, just showing this, we're kind of going off of these numbers right now. So going back here with Leia and Rey. Leia, her ultimate's going to get a lot more impactful. Think about her going up against a team that has a lower relic attached to it. If her ultimate kills them because it's going to be dealing additional damage based on the delta, remember, she can revive characters 1, right? So if we go to, we're going to click in Leia here. You go to her ultimate. Hey, it's going to deal damage equal to 30% of her max health, 90 against enemies who are ambushed, removing turn meter, inflicting ambush, fracture enemies, they recover health and protection, there's a mastery gain if they're defeated. Like, it's kind of crazy, right? So now that ability is so much more devastating if you're below Leia's relic threshold, because it's going to deal more damage, which potentially can just delete people all the time, which means she's always going to be getting revives. It's going to make this team a lot more challenging to kill. The next one is Rey. And Rey, I think here I'm going again with the ultimate like Leia. This again is dealing damage equally to all enemies. The thing you need to remember here is a lot of times when we're going up against Rey with some of our teams, we're often under-relicked. So now, some of those characters are going to be taking more damage from this ultimate because of the relic differential between them and Rey. So now you think at a four relic difference, it's a, we go back to that screen capture. At a 4 relic difference, that's 100% more damage. At a 5 relic difference, it's 200%. So just imagine you go up against a relic 10 Rey. She's going to deal 200% more damage with that ultimate. If you just started out her ultimate at 500,000 damage, that's 100k per character in 5v5. But to a relic 5, that's 300,000 damage. Yeah, not fun. So that is just, to me, that's what's going to make it that much more devastating. And then again, imagine now she's got that ultimate dealing 500,000 now against 4 characters, then it just makes it easier and easier to kill people. And then for Lord Vader and Ahsoka, I've got these ones. Again, Rey, Lord Vader, and Ahsoka, they have a lot of off-meta counters that are oftentimes under-reliced. So now that fight, again, there's some more damage that they're dealing. But with Lord Vader and Ahsoka, it's the fact that that battle's going to wage on a little bit longer. That's going to give them more time to ramp up their mastery. And for someone like Ahsoka, whose mastery is armor, health, steal, and protection, that's going to make her that much more challenging to kill. The fight's dragging on, now it's getting harder and harder to kill her, and you might not be able to get the job done. Also think about the rest of her team. If you haven't had a chance to kill them, they're, that fight's dragging out, now they're dealing more damage. So it's kind of this, really, really challenging aspect with her that fight drags out, she gets stronger, her team gets stronger, and then they can eventually overwhelm you. With Lord Vader, it's kind of the opposite, where you give him more time. They're not necessarily getting healthier or harder to kill, but his damage and defense pen in the mastery, when that starts ramping up, that's when problems happen with him, and he will just start doing some crazy things that are not fun. A lot of teams kind of try to kill Lord Vader before he ends up ramping to the point of killing them. With Relic Delta, if you're down a couple of relic levels, he doesn't need to ramp as much, which means he's going to kill you sooner. So I kind of put them here as that fight dragging out because of the damage reduction, and then the damage increases, the mastery gains, the time in fight. I kind of think these GLs get the most benefit. Again, going off of how you use them offensively and even defensively, they get the most, in my opinion. The next group, who I still think are winning, just not to the extent of the first group, we've got Jabba and Sith Eternal, primarily because their ultimates are an instant kill. So it doesn't matter what relic character you're attacking with that instant kill ability, as long as they can be instantly killed, there's no change there. The reason I do have both of them in a tier below has to do with, for example, Sith Eternal, you might not have him as relic out as some of the teams you may be going up against because of Bane. And now you might need to change that up because, again, with additional relics coming in, you might need a greater investment there. And then, and again, that's any kind of damage reduction is going to hurt that team as well. For Jabba, this is more so not so much because of him as it is his team. Myself included, and a lot of other players that you'll see, we invest in Jabba and Chrysanthemum and Leia's relics, but normally there's a fall off somewhere. There's normally 1 or 2 characters in that team that are a lot weaker. When they're not subject to the Relic Delta right now, you still kind of have to protect them, but they're pretty easy to manage there. Can you imagine these guys now going up against a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren with a 3 Relic Delta, a Relic 9 Kylo, who's swiping at them? Well, now you killed Embo. Now you killed Lando. And that means there's less damage output hitting the Kylo or hitting whoever else. And now that opens up the door for that fight to go a lot easier. So I do think the one caveat here is that there will be a greater investment into Jabba's team to keep him going. Similarly with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren on the Jabba front, where the negative aspect here is you will need the rest of his team to have more relics, which is something we often don't do with him. The benefit he gets is how much more powerful that AoE will get. Again, thinking about some of these teams where we're kind of chinsing out on some of the relics, Kylo's now going to be able to kill those characters. And the less characters on the other team, even though it does at times limit Kylo's ultimate gain, it's less damage he's taking in. He doesn't have a high survivability. He's not one of those GLs that, oh yeah, he can sit there and just tank for you. Kylo kind of, when he starts to take some damage, he falls apart quickly. Him putting out more damage due to Relic Delta is a huge deal. Especially with some of these teams where the way they protect those lower relic characters is with a crazy amount of defense or health or protection. Him just dealing more damage because he's at relic 9 or 10 gonna really make that fight a lot more challenging. So I think for Kylo, that benefit of extra damage just really good, but again, limiting the fact that you've also got to invest in his team or else he'll still be easy to take out. And then with Hondo, it's really just the timeout risk. I think with GL Hondo, the problem is he has that timeout ability because of his mastery that as, you know, the team ramps damage, you know, they're going to have more of that. But if you're struggling to kill them and then he keeps reviving people, it's going to be a challenge. You're going to have to use different squads against him in order to kind of counteract that. And if you don't bring enough of that damage, you might just end up timing out, even if it's against Hondo solo, or then he brings back everyone and you're like, ugh. So I do think this Relic Delta will elevate that timeout risk. But the reason he's down lower is because I don't think, as of right now, I think a lot of us are giving him a wide berth. We're taking Hondo very seriously. We're not trying to under-relic or underman or undershoot that team. So right now, I don't think he's getting as much of that benefit because most of us are giving him a lot of respect and taking that team seriously. Whereas some of these other ones, we're like, you know what? I can use Afra against Jabba, or I'll just use, you know, Bo-Katan Mandalore against Rey, or Night Sisters against Ahsoka. You know, it is what it is, right? Then finally, we get to JML and Jedi Master Kenobi, right? Kind of almost losing here. With Jedi Master Luke, the problem they said is that Jedi Lessons, his ability here, will, the damage will be subject to the penalty of the relic level. So if you have a Relic 9 JML to get all this extra protection, but you use it to call a Relic 7 or Relic 5 Jedi, it's subject to the penalty here. It's crazy. And that's kind of why I have him almost losing, is because now you need to invest in the entire team to kind of keep the damage output as it should be, which is kind of problematic for this team. It really, really limits the value that Relic 9 has on him. It's one of my bigger complaints with this. It really does hinder and limit the value of a Relic 9 JML, knowing you need everybody else in that team at that Relic level in order to really take advantage of it. And then with Jedi Master Kenobi, I think for early to late game players, this is a much larger issue. Because his team, if we're being honest, doesn't really require a lot of massive relic levels to be good early. In the end game, Commander Tano and Snips are Relic 9 for Ahsoka. General Kenobi's a Relic 9 for Hondo, and Padme is a Relic 8 for Lord Vader. Like, they're all high relic requirements, but early in the game, you're going to feel the need to bring them up higher, even if you're not ready for Ahsoka, Lord Vader, Hondo, simply because the Relic Delta will be pretty devastating to this team. Especially with all the attacks out of turn and stuff. You're dealing limited damage as it is. Now it's even, you know, subject to further. So it's one of those teams that I really like, the Kenobi team, and I think early to late game players, this will feel a lot worse than, like, for me in the end game. I've already got this team pretty high relic, so it's not a huge detriment. But it is something that I can see playing a role in some of those earlier levels where you're not quite making that full investment into the team. So that's the video, folks. Let me know down below what you think of this. Did I get some of these wrong? Do you think some of these gain more than others? I'd love to know about it. Still a lot to talk about here. Again, I probably need to do another live stream, kind of do a Q&A with Relic Delta on stuff, because there's probably a lot of thoughts that I think can, you know, discussion points that would help drive better conversations and better feedback for Capital Games about this. As I've said, though, I will stick to it. We still need a lot of scaling before I think it's going to be fair for everyone. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, my friends.